She was young, independent, and ambitious. A 28-year-old model and boutique owner building her brand and expanding her name. But on the evening of March 7th, 2022, Ketora Feazell drove to the home of her ex-boyfriend Marvin Simmons in Las Vegas. Less than an hour later, she was found shot multiple times inside her car, 7 bullets, 1 fatal wound to the chest. She didn't survive. What happened between the time she arrived and the moment the shots were fired? What did she say to him? What did he say to her? Was it planned? Or was it a confrontation that escalated beyond control? There were no reports of forced entry, no signs of robbery, and no indication of third-party involvement. The killer was not a stranger. It was someone she once trusted. Authorities quickly identified Marvin Simmons as a shooter. He didn't flee. He didn't deny it. But his motive remains unclear. Was it anger? Control? Jealousy? Fear? Police recovered the weapon and evidence from the scene. Witnesses gave statements. But the core question remains, why did she go back that day? And what caused a man she once loved to shoot her repeatedly in a parked car? This case is not just about a single act of violence. It's about the silence between the warning signs, the gaps in legal protections, and the danger that can hide in plain sight. In this episode, we trace the steps of Ketora's final day, examine the background of Marvin Simmons, and break down the events that led to her death. What really happened behind closed doors? Let's find out. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where you're watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds. Welcome to True Crime Uncovered, where we examine the cases that shake communities and expose what happens behind closed doors. Real stories, real people, real impact. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Ketora Feazell was 28 years old at the time of her death on March 7, 2022. Though not many details are publicly confirmed about her early life, reports suggest she may have originally been from either California or Louisiana. What is documented is that by her late 20s, Ketora had established a growing online presence and a personal brand as a model and boutique owner. She managed a fashion business and used her Instagram platform to promote clothing, accessories, and lifestyle content. Known to followers as stylish-driven and focused on self-made success, Ketora was part of a growing group of women using social media to leverage entrepreneurial visibility. Her boutique and modeling ventures reflected her commitment to maintaining independence and financial self-sufficiency. Ketora's content showed a consistent focus on fashion modeling, outfit branding, boutique promotion, and collaborations. While she didn't publicly share all aspects of her personal life, it was evident from her platform that she valued image, professionalism, and brand control. In terms of her personal life, Ketora reportedly had a relatively small circle of close friends and associates. Not many public posts reveal details about her family or siblings, and there is currently no verified information regarding her parents or family background. Her romantic relationship with Marvin Simmons, the man later accused of killing her, was not widely publicized before the incident. According to police records and witness statements, their relationship was known to a few friends and may have been marked by private tension. The exact start of the relationship is unclear, but evidence points to them having been romantically involved for some time before early 2022. The relationship allegedly ended prior to the shooting. Ketora had reportedly stopped seeing Marvin regularly and was believed to have cut off contact for a period. However, on March 7th, she went to Marvin's residence in Las Vegas. The reason for her visit remains unconfirmed. Some speculate it was for closure. Others suggest she may have returned belongings or intended to speak privately. What is known is that her visit ended with 7 bullets fired. 1 to the chest was fatal. Should young women in toxic relationships walk away sooner, even without clear proof of physical danger? How do image-based careers on social media influence the decisions individuals make about their private relationships and safety? Marvin Simmons, the man charged in connection with Ketora Feazell's death, has limited public information available. Based on police documents and media coverage, he was living in Las Vegas at the time of the shooting. His exact age and employment background have not been widely reported, but witnesses and police sources describe him as someone who maintained a low profile. There is no publicly known occupation linked to Marvin Simmons at the time of the incident. Whether he had a history of employment or criminal activity has not been officially disclosed by law enforcement. If prior incidents of violence, criminal charges, or restraining orders existed, they were either sealed or not released to the public at the time of reporting. What is clear is that Marvin Simmons was known to Ketora. The two were previously in a romantic relationship that had allegedly turned sour. According to witness statements given after the shooting, the relationship had included verbal arguments, tension, and emotional conflict. However, there were no known police reports filed by Ketora regarding domestic violence, nor any protective orders issued. Their dating timeline remains somewhat unclear, but investigators believe the relationship lasted for a substantial period and ended shortly before the incident. The fact that she visited him on the day of the shooting suggests there was still some form of communication between them. At the scene, Ketora was found in her vehicle, which was parked near Marvin's residence. She had been shot 7 times, indicating sustained violence. Authorities stated that Marvin did not flee and was taken into custody soon after. There is no available footage or 911 audio that has been publicly released, but early evidence pointed to Marvin as the primary and only suspect. The nature of the crime led investigators to explore the possibility of controlling or abusive behavior on Marvin's part. Although no public record confirmed prior violence, the level of force used during the shooting has led authorities to believe that the act was deliberate and not defensive. In the absence of a public trial at the time of reporting, motive remains speculative. Investigators focus on emotional escalation, unresolved conflict, and possible resentment as factors contributing to the shooting. There is no report of robbery, third-party involvement, or spontaneous altercation, with a weapon being grabbed in self-defense. Witnesses from Marvin's neighborhood described him as quiet, with few visitors or signs of social activity. Police have not revealed whether the gun used was legally owned, though forensic analysis confirmed it was fired at close range and matched bullets retrieved from the victim's body. Are there red flags that often go unnoticed in romantic relationships until it's too late? Do law enforcement systems respond quickly enough to early signs of domestic tension when no formal report has been filed? Ketora Feazell, age 28, model and boutique owner. Marvin Simmons, former romantic partner, currently facing charges for her shooting death. Las Vegas, Nevada, March 7, 2022. Gunshot wound to the chest. 7 shots fired in total. Victim found in her car near suspect's residence. Apprehended shortly after the shooting. No public statement released. Ketora Feazell, a 28-year-old fashion model and boutique owner, met Marvin Simmons in Las Vegas, Nevada. Sources suggest the relationship began sometime in 2021, although the exact date of their first interaction has not been publicly disclosed. They were reportedly introduced through mutual connections, either in person or online in a social setting. The relationship progressed quickly. Within months, they were seen frequently together on social media and in public. There is no verified confirmation of shared living arrangements, but some reports indicate that Ketora occasionally stayed overnight at Marvin's residence or vice versa. Witness statements from Ketora's acquaintances and indirect social media posts hinted at growing tension. While no explicit public allegations of domestic violence were made during their relationship, observers noted signs of controlling behavior on Marvin's part. He allegedly became possessive, monitored her interactions, and discouraged certain friendships. This pattern of isolation is consistent with early-stage psychological control in domestic relationship dynamics. Friends later claimed that Ketora became less active in group gatherings and rarely spoke about her personal life in the final months of the relationship. Although there were no public police reports of domestic disturbances during their time together, individuals close to Ketora have since come forward stating there were private concerns about Marvin's behavior. These concerns included his temper, past legal issues, and his reaction to disagreements. No formal restraining orders or police interventions were filed prior to the incident, but unofficial discussions suggest that close contacts urged her to end the relationship for her safety. A review of Ketora's social media accounts in the months leading to March 2022 shows a shift in tone. Posts became less frequent. Captions changed from lifestyle and business promotion to short, vague messages that some interpreted as emotionally distant or cryptic. Visual content stopped, including Marvin entirely, suggesting a breakup or disconnection had occurred. No explicit mention of abuse or threats appeared on her public platforms. The relationship reportedly ended sometime in early 2022. Accounts from people close to the situation confirmed that Ketora and Marvin had broken up, though it is unclear if it was permanent or part of an on-again, off-again pattern. The events of March 7 suggest that communication was ongoing, at least sporadically, between the two. Whether it was civil, hostile, or transactional remains uncertain. But the fact that Ketora visited Marvin's home that day indicates that some level of direct contact was maintained. On March 7, 2022, Ketora drove to Marvin Simmons' residence located in a residential area of Las Vegas. Witness accounts and case records place her arrival between 4:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. The exact purpose of her visit is not publicly confirmed, but speculation from law enforcement and community reports suggests the meeting was intended to resolve unfinished business, possibly related to returning belongings, finalizing the breakup, or clarifying personal matters. The encounter did not occur inside the house. According to official documentation and scene photographs, the fatal shooting occurred while Ketora was seated in her vehicle, parked outside Marvin's residence. Marvin approached her vehicle and fired 7 shots. All shots were directed at the driver's side of the car, with multiple rounds striking her upper body. 1 bullet penetrated her chest, causing critical internal damage. The firearm used was a handgun, recovered at the scene. The shooting appears to have been carried out at close range. There were no signs of a struggle or forced entry into the car. She was reportedly still seated in the driver's seat when police arrived. Ketora Feazell was transported to University Medical Center in Las Vegas. Medical reports confirmed she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival due to a gunshot wound to the chest. The trajectory and distance confirmed it was fired at close range. The 911 call was made at approximately 5:15 p.m. Initial reports do not specify whether Marvin made the call himself or if it was placed by a witness or neighbor. Responding officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department arrived within minutes. Upon arrival, law enforcement found Ketora unresponsive in her vehicle. Paramedics initiated emergency aid on site before transporting her to the hospital. Officers located spent shell casings near the car and identified the shooter based on immediate witness testimony and Marvin's presence at the scene. He was taken into custody without resistance. Crime scene analysis confirmed multiple bullet holes on the driver's side of Ketora's vehicle. The glass was shattered. Shell casings were recovered from the ground near the driver's door, matching the weapon found in Marvin's possession. No additional individuals were involved in the shooting. Surveillance footage from a nearby home, if available, has not been publicly released. Do you think Ketora had a reason to fear for her life that day? Would you have gone back to speak with an ex-partner under similar circumstances? What signs do you think are often missed in toxic or dangerous relationships? On March 7, 2022, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department responded to a 911 call reporting gunfire in a residential area. Upon arrival, officers discovered 28-year-old Ketora Feazell inside a parked vehicle. She had sustained multiple gunshot wounds. Paramedics transported her to University Medical Center, where she was later pronounced dead from a gunshot wound to the chest. Marvin Simmons, Ketora's ex-boyfriend, was still present at the scene when law enforcement arrived. Reports confirm he did not attempt to flee. He cooperated with police upon questioning. Officers detained him without resistance and transported him to police headquarters for interrogation. During the initial questioning, Simmons reportedly admitted to the shooting. He did not express remorse or offer emotional justification, according to the official report. No claims of self-defense or accidental discharge were recorded at this stage. The motive was not clearly stated. A handgun was recovered from the scene. Police determined that it was the weapon used in the shooting. The firearm was a semi-automatic pistol. Ballistics analysis confirmed that all 7 rounds discharged into Ketora's body were fired from that weapon. The gun was not registered under Simmons' name. Investigators later confirmed the weapon was not legally owned. Gunshot residue, GSR, tests conducted on Simmons returned positive results, confirming he had fired a weapon recently. There were no signs of struggle inside the vehicle. No other weapons were recovered at the scene. Surveillance footage from a neighboring residence captured partial audio of the gunshots and some visual evidence of Ketora's arrival. However, the camera's angle did not directly capture the shooting itself. Several witness statements were collected. A nearby neighbor reported hearing a heated verbal exchange just before the gunshots. Another resident reported seeing Ketora arrive around 5 p.m. No eyewitnesses directly observed the shooting. Police also interviewed Ketora's family and close friends. Several noted that she had ended her relationship with Simmons weeks earlier. One friend confirmed Ketora had expressed concerns about his behavior, stating he had been obsessive and unwilling to accept the breakup. There is no indication Ketora had filed a restraining order or sought formal legal protection prior to her death. A background check on Simmons revealed no prior felony convictions, but did show a history of minor arrests and one incident involving disorderly conduct. No previous domestic violence charges were on record, but friends of Ketora stated that verbal and emotional abuse may have occurred during the relationship. Following the arrest, Marvin Simmons was formally charged with second-degree murder under Nevada law. Prosecutors determined that the evidence did not support a premeditated act consistent with first-degree murder, but ruled out manslaughter due to the number of shots fired and the nature of the attack. Additional charges included possession of a firearm by a prohibited person and use of a deadly weapon during the commission of a violent crime. At his arraignment, Simmons entered a plea of not guilty. His public defender initially explored a potential self-defense argument, suggesting there may have been a confrontation between Simmons and Feazell. However, this theory lacked supporting evidence, as there was no weapon found on Ketora, nor any evidence of her threatening Simmons physically. A psychological evaluation was requested by the defense, but later withdrawn. The court record shows that Simmons was found competent to stand trial. There were no claims of mental illness made by the defense at that stage. Held 4 weeks after the arrest, the preliminary hearing presented basic facts of the case. The judge found probable cause to move forward with all charges. A Clark County grand jury returned a formal indictment in May 2022, confirming the charges against Simmons. The trial commenced in late November 2022. The proceedings lasted approximately 2 weeks. Ballistics confirming the firearm used was in Simmons' possession. GSR results proving he fired the weapon. Surveillance footage showing Ketora's arrival, and audio evidence of gunshots. Testimony from witnesses, including neighbors and Ketora's friends. The medical examiner's report confirming 7 gunshot wounds, including 1 fatal chest wound. The defense offered minimal rebuttal evidence. Simmons did not testify in his own defense. The defense argued that the shooting was not premeditated and that the emotional volatility of the situation made it more aligned with heat-of-the-moment violence rather than calculated murder. Medical examiner, forensics expert, 2 neighbors who heard or partially saw events leading up to the incident, Ketora's close friends, a police officer who conducted the initial interview with Simmons, an expert in firearm usage for ballistics confirmation, emphasized that Ketora was unarmed, sitting in her vehicle, and not engaged in threatening behavior. Prosecutors highlighted the repeated shots and location of wounds as indicators of deliberate intent to kill, focused on Simmons' lack of prior violent history, and questioned whether the incident was a result of extreme emotional distress rather than murder with intent. They pushed for a reduced sentence or conviction of voluntary manslaughter. On December 9, 2022, the jury found Marvin Simmons guilty of second-degree murder and guilty of illegal firearm possession. He was sentenced to 25 years to life, with a possibility of parole after 20 years. The illegal firearm charge added an additional 5 years, to be served consecutively. There is currently no record of an appeal filed by Simmons or his legal counsel. Should gun violence and domestic disputes be treated with stricter legal consequences? If an individual shows signs of emotional volatility, should it trigger automatic firearm restrictions? What policies can be implemented to provide more preventive legal protection to people exiting toxic or abusive relationships? Are current background check systems enough to flag potentially dangerous individuals before incidents like this occur? Following the shooting death of 28-year-old Ketora Feazell in Las Vegas, her family members responded with public statements expressing both disbelief and a call for justice. Though deeply personal reactions are often withheld from legal discussions, various media outlets recorded interviews and social media posts from close relatives. These included statements confirming her identity, detailing funeral arrangements, and calling for awareness around intimate partner violence. Shortly after her death, a GoFundMe campaign was launched to assist with funeral and burial expenses. The fundraising effort highlighted Ketora's aspirations, her work in the fashion industry, and the family's intention to honor her memory by celebrating the positive legacy she left behind. Contributions came from both local contacts and strangers who learned of her story online, signaling broader public resonance. In addition to the fundraiser, there were candlelight vigils held in her honor in Las Vegas and other cities connected to her family. Photos and videos from these events circulated on social platforms, often using the hashtag Justice for Ketora, and included participants sharing stories, lighting candles, and holding silent moments of reflection. A number of online tributes, including digital collages, Instagram posts, and video memorials, also appeared in the days and weeks that followed. These digital gestures ensured the incident remained visible beyond local news reports. The local Las Vegas community responded quickly after the shooting. Community organizers, women's rights advocates, and domestic violence prevention groups used the case as a talking point in broader conversations about partner abuse and femicide. Though there were no widespread protests, several local awareness campaigns were launched. One such event was a panel discussion hosted by a regional nonprofit focused on intimate partner violence. The panel featured legal experts, counselors, and survivors of abuse who used the case as a springboard to discuss preventive measures and legal gaps. Media coverage was regional at first, focusing on the police investigation and the arrest of Marvin Simmons. As more details emerged, true crime bloggers, YouTube creators, and news platforms picked up the case and expanded its visibility. Many of these channels examined Ketora's public presence on social media and contrasted it with the alleged private tensions in her relationship. This increased online exposure helped sustain public attention on the circumstances of her death. Over time, the case became a recurring reference in discussions about domestic violence, especially those involving young black women, social media influencers, and the intersection of public image versus private vulnerability. As of the latest verified updates, Marvin Simmons, the accused, was arrested at or near the scene of the shooting and charged with murder. Following standard legal procedures in Nevada, his case entered the court system, beginning with preliminary hearings. If Marvin Simmons was convicted, appeals may have already been filed or are pending. These typically challenge evidence admission, procedural errors, or sentencing outcomes. However, specific details on appeal filings are not publicly available at this time. Parole possibilities depend on the conviction type and sentence length. In cases of second-degree murder or manslaughter, parole may be an option after serving a required minimum term. If Simmons was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, release would be off the table. Restraining orders are typically moot after such conviction, but can remain relevant during pretrial stages or for protecting witnesses or surviving family members from harassment. In this case, temporary restraining orders may have been part of the pre-incident timeline, though there's no public record confirming that Ketora had previously filed one. The emotional toll on Ketora's family has been evident through statements, tributes, and ongoing involvement in awareness efforts. Some family members have since become involved in domestic violence education, participating in community events, and collaborating with nonprofits to spread awareness. There is currently no confirmed foundation or legal entity established in Ketora's name, but her story has been used by organizations working on domestic abuse policy reform. Several domestic abuse prevention groups now cite her case in their literature, including workshops aimed at young adults and college students. The family's long-term advocacy efforts focus primarily on recognizing early signs of abuse, mental health support, and legal protection for individuals in unstable relationships. This shift in behavior highlights the continuing impact of violent death can have on survivors and relatives. The murder of Ketora Feazell contributed to renewed conversations about intimate partner violence, particularly involving social media personalities and influencers. These conversations have raised questions about how fame, visibility, and perception can mask the reality of dangerous relationships. Several advocacy groups have pointed to the Feazell case when lobbying for stronger firearm restrictions in domestic contexts. In many states, individuals with a history of domestic violence can still access firearms due to legal loopholes or insufficient enforcement. Ketora's case reinforced calls to implement mandatory firearm removal upon issuance of protective orders. There's also been a push to update police response protocols. Advocates argue that officers responding to domestic disturbance calls should receive additional training to identify subtle warning signs, particularly in relationships where no prior criminal history exists. One policy being proposed in some states is the creation of a high-risk relationship registry that would help track repeated but uncharged behavior. Further policy considerations include mandatory cooling-off periods following threats made by intimate partners, automatic referrals to social services, and real-time databases shared between agencies and courts to ensure that violent patterns don't go unnoticed. How can we better protect victims in emotionally abusive situations before violence escalates? Should the legal system be able to intervene without requiring a formal complaint or physical evidence? Should more tech-based safety measures be available for at-risk individuals? Would tools like emergency alert buttons, automatic location tracking, or audio recording during threats help law enforcement respond in time? Is there enough education in schools and workplaces about identifying signs of toxic relationships? Could mandatory relationship education reduce these incidents? Do you believe restraining orders are enough to prevent harm, or should they come with stricter enforcement mechanisms, such as electronic monitoring of the subject? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.